So I thought we'll be different too, and I'm just going to speak from the floor here instead of up there on the stage. Get a little bit closer to you, I hope. So first of all, thank you for joining us this morning. I know it's an early start at this event. We thought it's useful to get you up to speed, perhaps to update you on some of the things that we've been doing. We recognized that last year, 2017, it was an important year for us in terms of repositioning ourselves as an alliance, in terms of launching a new strategy that focused on customer experience and making the customer journey better. And we had in fact planned in around December to bring the media together in Frankfurt to provide an update about what we've been doing so far, particularly since the 14th of May last year when we launched our 20th anniversary campaign. But as the plan was unfolding, we recognized that it was going to clash with the IATA World Media Day in Geneva. So we've had to, unfortunately, reschedule our plan for the briefing. And then we thought that a good opportunity would be at this IATA event when many of you will be around anyway. So that's with some apology about the delay in getting to you some of the things that we've been doing in the past year or so. Now, at the 20th anniversary, for those of you who were able to join us in Frankfurt on the 14th of May last year, you will know or you will recall that we repositioned or attempted to reposition ourselves with a new strategy for the Alliance going forward into our third decade. The first 2 decades of Star Alliance, we spent those 20 years building our network, embarking on a strategy of membership growth. We have 28 members today, as you know. And then 20 years of strengthening our brand internationally and globally. But it was important for us to recognize that as we enter into the third decade, it is the customer's experience, it is making the customer's journey better that should be our focus, should be our strategy moving forward. And that's what we've been spending our time on in the course of the last 12 months or 18 months as we reposition ourselves. Today, you're going to have the opportunity of seeing through a demonstration of some of the products that we have launched in terms of digitalizing the customer experience. You'll see 2 showcases that have gone live since the beginning of this year. But I just wanted to perhaps take the opportunity in a few minutes that I have before I hand over to my colleague to provide a demonstration on an overall picture of where Star Alliance is and where Star Alliance is trying to position itself moving forward. First and foremost, I want to say that the network of Star Alliance is important for us as an alliance. We came off our Chief Executive Board meeting yesterday afternoon that it is important for us to continue to maintain the strength of our network because that defines the alliance as a whole. But in terms of our strategy for membership growth, as we also announced last May, we are shifting away somewhat our focus from membership growth towards the customer and their experience. But that's not to say that we're closed for business. Clearly, if there was a proposition that added value to the alliance, we will clearly be looking at that. You will also know that last year we integrated through our program of connecting partnership model, the first of this connecting partner called Junyao Airlines based in Shanghai. That gave us the opportunity to deploy a strategy of connecting with local and regional airlines in important commercial hubs such as Shanghai. So Junyao has been an important addition to the membership of Star Alliance as a connecting partner. So overall, all of that to say is we are set in making sure that we continue to have the largest network, we continue to have a strong network across the globe. What we want to do, and what we have been doing in the last 12 months or so or more, is to understand how we can leverage technology, particularly digital technology, in delivering a better customer experience. And you'll see a demonstration, as I said, in a few moments. But that's not the only thing that we've done throughout last year. One of the showcases of last year was the building of our digital services platform together with Accenture. You'll have an introduction to Accenture in a moment. But we've also been focused on leveraging technology to help that customer experience better in areas of such as loyalty. You know, many of you are frequent travelers here today, I'm sure, and you have collected 1 million miles, 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles, and you want to spend it on your holiday with your family or friends. And often you find that quite difficult in terms of understanding or getting the flights and the seats for the places that you want to fly to. You often have to call a call center, you have to wait before somebody picks up the phone, and then if you're lucky, you get the flights and the seats that you want to where you want to go. We thought that a better experience for the customers was to provide that digital experience through an online platform where the customers have a control of their own experience in redeeming their miles, for instance, in this case. So you don't have to pick up the phone to the call center anymore. You go onto your website, your preferred carrier, you just go onto the inventory, you look at the origin, you look at the destination, and then you see if there is availability. And then you click, and then you move on to your flight the next day or the next month or the next year. The customers then have a control of the experience of when, how, and where to do that. And that's part of our strategy in making the customer's experience better, of handing back the control of that experience. So that's one of the things that by the end of this year, we are looking for all our members to be to have fully implemented this functionality for the loyalty side of the alliance. But we've also been busy. I should also say, you all know that in terms of airport experience and airport projects, the customer seamless experience from the curb to the gate, we've been busy in those areas too. Particularly, as you know, there are many airports in Asia, Northeast Asia, that are expanding, new terminals being built, terminals being renovated. We get in early to speak and to discuss with the airports of how we can help them in the process development to help make the customer journey more seamless and better. Istanbul is going to open at the end of this year. We are talking with Hong Kong, which has a new terminal under construction. We're in discussions with Beijing Airport, with the new airport coming up. Star Alliance and Air China will remain in the old airport. We signed a memorandum of understanding last December to kick off how we would make the old airport essentially a Star Alliance terminal or a Star Alliance airport. So many airport projects are taking place around the world on which we have, I would hasten to add, significant credentials in terms of airport projects. So that, in a way, as a summary, as a nutshell, the message that I want to give is we're very focused in terms of making the customer's journey better, focusing on the servicing of the customers, focusing on the experience through the airport for the customers, and then also delivering a better loyalty proposition for the customers. Three very simple pillars of the strategy as we move forward in the alliance, focusing on the customers. So that's really the overall picture I wanted to share with you. But to give you a better feel of the things that we have done, rather than for me to just talk about it, I'm going to ask my colleague here, Jeremy Drury. He's going to demonstrate to you. Unfortunately, he's going to demonstrate it on the screen. Is that right, on the screen? On the TV screen. Two of our products, digital products that have just gone live, or went live at the beginning of this year. And so for you to see that we're not just here talking about it, but we've actually launched and delivered some of these promises to the customers. So I'm going to hand over to Jeremy. We had hoped, but you can imagine the problems with customs and border controls, to bring mobile phones here for you to actually play with real life situations of this digital experience as if you're a customer. But bringing 30 phones through the border here wasn't something that was easy for us to do. So unfortunately, you'll have to look to see how Jeremy is going to present that. Thank you very much, and I'll come back to take questions from you.
So just before I do those demonstrations, I wanted to put in perspective what Jeffrey was saying in terms of where the Star Alliance fit in the digital journeys that our carriers are taking right now. Today, as we started exploring, as Jeffrey said, beginning of 2017, we were looking at the landscape of airlines starting to offer digital services to their online customers, connecting their back-end systems to the customer channels. And we were starting to see a picture like this, which is carriers starting that journey, but looking at that from a single airline perspective. It was very important as we repositioned to make sure that we were going to be part of that and offering these types of services that an online carrier can provide across the alliance. And we were worried that this was going to happen. The carriers were going to engage, they were going to get a spaghetti of systems between the members, which ultimately is going to be very difficult for them to handle and to provide those services to the customers. In 2017, we created the Digital Services Platform. The Digital Service Platform is a layer that we are creating between the airline systems and the customer front ends, so that services from one member can be used by another member in that member's channel. So we open up the systems to allow much more flexible communication between our members, and also allow the customer to be part of processes that they would not normally be able to interact with. We have taken a very focused customer view. We're looking through the customer journey to find out where are the right points for Star Alliance to be playing. What is the most important part in the customer journey that today needs to be enabled to allow the customer to get that seamless digital experience. And we're being very focused on what the customer wants. It's very easy to, if we're not careful, to forget the customer is king, and we need to put them at the forefront of that. We have a fantastic partner. Accenture have actually joined us today. So thank you very much for being here. Accenture have joined us on this journey, helping Star to think through these problems in a much faster development cycle. The demonstrations that I'll show you today took us in the region of 2.5 to 3 months with Accenture's help to take from initial idea into implementation. And the idea of developing in the digital world, the agile world, allows us to think long-term, but deliver in the short term, deliver quickly. So thank you very much for supporting us. The first demonstration, in quotes, I want to talk about is interline baggage tracking. Just like the airlines, Star Alliance has a significant set of IT infrastructure that we provide to our members. And the interline baggage tracking is the releasing of some of that data back to the customers. So through what we call the baggage hub, we've actually been able to implement customer-facing services which allow bags to be tracked through the entire interline journey. Now, some carriers offer today interline baggage tracking themselves on their online product. But what's important is you want to know where your DHL package is, you want to know where your bag is throughout the entire journey. And with the Star Alliance services, bringing all of that baggage data together, we are enabling carriers now to put services into their customer channels, which allow that bag to be checked, to be tracked from the very moment it goes in at the airport to the moment it comes out of the back end. Just as an example, this is implemented in Lufthansa's application right now. So if you are traveling on Lufthansa and you are checking a bag, what you're seeing is powered by Star Alliance. This is an example. I can't use a real data for this one, I'm afraid, because of the latest set of data regulations that came in. So I wouldn't want to track someone's bag, that would be get me into all sorts of trouble. So as always, it's Maximus demand. But this was a set of data that we pulled out of the system last week and have anonymized for the purposes of showing you. This is Rome through Frankfurt to San Francisco on our carriers Lufthansa and United. And as an example, what you're seeing here is very, very similar to the information you would get when you're tracking a DHL package or a package that you're sending with UPS. We'll tell the customer when the bag was accepted at the airport. We'll tell the customer when it was loaded on the aeroplane. We'll tell it when it was received at the transfer point, and then we'll tell the customer when it was loaded onto the plane, going onto the second segment. And all of that comes to the customer and just provides that bit of security that yes, we are doing our job correctly. We also have interline seat assignment. This is during reservations. You all know that today it is, in many cases, it is possible to select your seat as you check in on a flight, which is great, except you probably want to be selecting your seat when you're purchasing your flight, because that's part of the product. And through through bringing that process forward into the reservations with this service, that's exactly what we can start to offer. So through that digital services platform that I was talking about earlier, we've connected seat maps and seat assignment for the carriers, and we will continue to roll that out over across the membership, so that now, instead of having to wait to check in, you can do that through the reservation channels, or in this case, I'm going to show you through the Manage My Booking. Can you fix the switches? So this is always dangerous. Now, this is United's application, mobile application live. We have an itinerary here with United and with Singapore. You can see that Raoul and Rachel have quite a complicated itinerary. They're going to be going through Shanghai, Singapore, Shanghai and back. And traditionally, you get to the first segment and you'll be able to book your make your United reservation. Today, through the Star Alliance services, it's now possible to take the Singapore segment, in this case the second segment. I'm going to keep talking because this has to go all the way to America and back via Star. So just give it a second while it's thinking about it. And what just happened is that through the digital services platform, where we've standardized these services calls, the system is retrieving, United is receiving the seat maps from Singapore. The beauty of that is, as other carriers also provide their seat maps, United doesn't need to do, has to do limited integration work to be able to expand that offer across their 28 members. So this is something that until January this year was not possible in the airline industry. This is selecting a seat, an interlight seat during the reservations between two Star Alliance members. And it may look simple, but that is what customers want to be able to do when they're purchasing their tickets. So save the seats and confirm that seat reservation has been made, and we can do that for every segment. So I won't take you through it. This is exactly what we're trying to achieve. This is an example of what we're trying to achieve in many areas of the customer journey. Taking services from one carrier, bringing them into the channel of another carrier, so the customer doesn't have to switch between channels, doesn't have to be concerned about where he's making those choices. So he can be loyal to United or loyal to another carrier within Star Alliance without having to make those changes. So thank you very much.
Jeremy, and thank you, Jeffrey. We do have two microphones, and the ladies and one gentleman, will be coming around. If you'd like to ask questions, can you please tell us who you're with, your name and who you're with, and we'll start with the gentleman in the blue jacket.
Hi, good morning. Seth Miller from atn.aero. Regarding the booking the seat assignments, I know that's one of several features that's going to be coming through this middleware platform. One of the challenges with seat assignments these days is that many of them cost money. How are you handling the pass-through of booking those with airlines that charge for advanced seat assignments? Is that done? Is it coming? Is it something you're ignoring?
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thanks for the question. I hope at least, if I may just to start off, that give you a flavor of some of the things that we've been working on, and essentially are things which customers have been asking for. We've seen this through the customer service, we've seen this through the feedback, and complaints to our CEO members too. It's a great question. The product that we've launched so far focuses on complimentary seat selection. In other words, seats for which you do not have to pay for yet. We are looking into, we have it in our business plan this year, to trial the paradigm of paid seat selection. It is not as simple as it sounds, because as you have a financial transaction across two different airlines, the critical problem here is a process for settling that commercial transaction. And the industry hasn't really yet got a process which we can robustly depend on in terms of settling that commercial transaction. That's one part of the challenge that we're looking at. The second part is what happens when there is a change of aircraft or a cancellation and the customer is looking at a refund. And I think we all agree that a customer is not going to wait 2 years like we wait for our tax refunds for $20. We've got to be able to refund that in 20 minutes, probably at the most. So those are some of the challenges on two sides of the same coin on the settlement and the refund process for the chargeable part of the seat selection program.
Thank you very much. My name is Nick Padukba, African Aviation. In your opening remarks, you mentioned that the Star Alliance is refocusing from membership growth onto customer service. From your perspective, what are the constraints to global alliance growth today? Thank you.
It's a very broad question. Thank you for that. I think that generally, if you look at all alliances, and I speak more for Star Alliance than the other global airline alliances, is that we have grown to a certain size. And I think that beyond that certain size, there is probably marginal returns in terms of adding into the membership size and the membership growth. We feel, at least our board, Chief Executive Board feels comfortable and assured that the network of members that we have today and the coverage that we have internationally is sufficient to serve the purposes of a global airline alliance. There are very few places to which that one or more of our members do not fly to provide that access and that reach by customers. And if you also look around the globe, there aren't too many really airlines that you would seek to integrate, certainly in the case of Star Alliance, that would add significant value to the network proposition that we already have. We recognize nevertheless that there are markets and jurisdictions in which we do not have a member, but at the same time, we're also aware that we shouldn't just be chasing membership for the sake of it, because there may not be any suitable candidates in that particular market or in that particular jurisdiction.
Gentleman in the front row, and then the lady in glasses.
Andreas Speth, international aviation journalist based in Germany. Hi, Jeffrey. As a customer, I'm just wondering, Star Alliance is the oldest alliance. You just had your anniversary last year, 20 years, which is a long time in aviation. And both from my own customer experience, also from what we get presented here with at the moment, I'm a bit surprised when I ask you again, why does this take so long to get this kind of integration done? For a customer, we have an outward face of being the Star Alliance, and I would expect as a customer that you have worked out these things long ago. So in general, it's like an industry question, but as a customer, I'm a bit disappointed that still this integration is not being fully implemented in the industry in general, in the alliances, and even you as the old alliance are still in some places still in early stages even to do the integration. You just described the seats you have to pay for reservations. So in general, what's the problem? Why does it take so long to get this act together in a way for the customer?
Thanks for the question. It's a great question. I think at the risk of ramping along complaints about legacies of the industry, I think there is a combination of reasons for perhaps the speed with which the industry has progressed in terms of delivering some of these simple, basic customer expectations in the industry. If you look at it from a technology perspective, many airlines, whether it is in Star Alliance or outside Star Alliance, are using and still depending on very legacy-based systems. Airlines are at different stages of technological development. Some are more sophisticated and some are less sophisticated. And to get to that common denominator often isn't easy because you're trying to find a common standard across very different systems and legacy systems. I would also add that there are different stakeholders in the industry as we deliver customer experiences and expectations, you've got from the GDSs, the global distribution systems, to the airports. All of them have different, perhaps, business philosophies, business models, and trying to change certain of these things to make it easier for us to integrate some of these customer expectations can take time, can be a challenge. So,
20 years.
Say again?
20 years plus.
20 years plus, and perhaps even longer before the airline licenses have existed. There are many basic customer propositions that perhaps the industry should have developed. But it is the world in which we live in, and I think that as we progress with very progressive emerging technologies, as we look at startup companies, as we look at new technology partners, I think that the future is promising in terms of the speed with which we can deliver some of these very basic customer expectations. And I think it's a matter of time before we get to this, perhaps faster than the 20 years or more that you referred to.
So we have 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Hello, Emma Kelly from Asian Aviation Magazine. Can you give some examples of other projects you're looking at in terms of improving the customer experience? And I assume this also includes the in-flight customer experience. Can you say anything about any projects in that area?
Sure. So I want to be careful in the sense that as we digitalize customer experience, some of these things in this agile world, in this fast-changing world, they may not come to fruition. So in this particular lifestyle of digitalization, there is a lot about agile project development, so that you adopt things very quickly, but you may also need to drop things very quickly. When we began this journey, we started off with 3 proofs of concept, 3 pilot cases. One was the main showcase of seat selection, which you've just seen the demonstration. The other was baggage location tracking. And the third was flight information, amenities on a particular flight. So if you were transferring from one airline to another airline, is the second airline offering Wi-Fi services, can they be purchased? What movies are on board? What meals are on board that you can purchase, etc., etc. Basically, flight information. Those were the 3 pilot cases which we ran last year, and all of them have gone into production and live at the beginning of this year, as you just heard earlier. In the business plan that we have this year and in our midterm plan, we are focusing on the customer journey and those touch points where we can digitalize these experiences. Some of the areas that we're looking at, for instance, is in the area of loyalty. How can we instantly allow you to claim and credit the miles and spend the miles that you've earned? The other area is how can we use some of this digital technology to assist a passenger who has arrived late and is at risk of connecting at the airport for the next flight. How can we have a digital, perhaps a virtual digital assistant to get you from a gate to another gate for the flight that you are connecting? There is also, I think, an interesting prospect of how we can perhaps enable, for want of a better term, check-in anywhere. So as a way of describing this, you could be a frequent flyer of Air New Zealand and you are used to the Air New Zealand application, but you're now on your second flight with Singapore Airlines from Singapore to Frankfurt, and perhaps on your 3rd flight from Frankfurt to San Francisco or Chicago. Could you check in on those 2nd and 3rd flights on your Air New Zealand application, on your Air New Zealand mobile website, without having to download the Singapore Airlines app, without having to download the Lufthansa app, or indeed memorizing what the URL is for the website of Singapore Airlines or Lufthansa. So a seamless one-stop experience for the customers in terms of the check-in experience. So aiming to those, to your question, there are different touch points in the customer journey where we can begin to look at, and that's certainly one of those things. Including also, I would say, in our business plan this year, is to look at how we can use this digital services platform to enable a better solution for irregular operations. So when you are delayed, when your flight is cancelled, how we can leverage the platform to very quickly get you rebooked.